All right, hey people, Russ Jensen again. So it's about 10 to 6 p.m. on the 6th of January 2017 here in Salt Lake City, Utah now. Um, got to do a little bit of review here for just a second about what we think that we know, where we're at right now. Now, everybody believes that the Constitution for the United States of America, 1787, and the Constitution for the United States, which is the amended version, 1789, supposedly the supreme law of the land, applies everywhere. In Article 3, this is the judicial section. Section 2, Clause 1, the judicial power shall extend to all cases in law and equity arising under this Constitution. And then later on it talks about to all cases of admiralty and maritime jurisdiction. That's it. Those are the only four types of law that can be utilized in the areas of the Union States supposedly protected by this Constitution that was written. Now, we also know in Article 1 that Congress is given some legislative authority. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17, exclusive legislation in all cases whatsoever over the District of Columbia. Then also in Article 4, they're given the ability to make rules and regulations for the property and territories. Now, I'll cover this a little bit more in the book too, but when we research Title 28, the United States Code, which is just prima facie evidence of law, it's not the real law itself, but going there, we can understand that there are two district courts. There's one, which is the United States District Courts, which is the for the federal courts for the territories and the District of Columbia. And then there are the district courts of the United States, and that happens to be the one that falls under Article 3. Now, if you understand, too, admiralty and maritime jurisdiction applies to the United States only. It can only be operated in a Article 3 court out here in the States. Okay? They don't, and so the question then becomes, is I did a little video on this before, are the district courts of the United States the same as the United States district courts? No, they're not. They prosecute everybody for federal crimes in the United States District Courts, which is a federal court for federal territories. Now the question becomes then is, how is it that Utah, California, or any other places became territories of the United States? Now I guess we can make an argument that it's because of your use of Federal Reserve notes, but it's primarily because of the use of a Social Security number. And the real crime there isn't what you've done, because they give you that number. Your parents took that number, lied to you, a lot of deception and fraud that's gone on. Even you using it, they haven't been told the full story. Now they claim you should be able to read the law and act and understand. But the fact of the matter is that they force those things upon us. But the bigger crime has come from the fact of the states. Your sovereign state, the organic state of Utah, the Republic of Utah, California, Nevada. They're the ones that have allowed this foreign invasion to happen. They're the ones that have allowed their state citizens to be subjected and dragged into a jurisdiction. I've been forced to take a claim of a U.S. citizen, United States citizen. There is no such thing as a United States citizenship. There isn't even federal citizenship. What there is state citizenships. That's it. Now, if we could look at the original Social Security Act from 1935, we need to just take a look at Title I, Section 2, Clause 2 and 3, and Section 3A of the Social Security Act, and it states very clearly there that the uh, states would come under federal jurisdiction, and you would lose your common law citizenship of the state. Drag yourself into a jurisdiction, federal territorial jurisdiction, where none of the rules supposedly apply, which is, man, I don't know, but they've been doing it for so long, you can't get around that fact. They claim in the territories that the federal government, the Congress, can do whatever, pretty much whatever they want, whatever's not specifically prohibited by the Constitution, which is, well, that's a stretch. But uh, the thing you have to understand is that your Social Security number is not an annuity for you. It's not a retirement plan. Okay. It's an insurance program that was done under the authority of Congress's ability to tax, number one. Number two, it's an insurance contract. Therefore, it falls under maritime jurisdiction. Now, maritime jurisdiction is predicated upon contracts pertaining to commerce and navigation. You know, there's a ruling here from 1884 from the United States Supreme Court of Criminals. The subject matter is the test of a maritime contract. A contract appertaining to commerce and navigation, wherever made to be performed on the navigable waters of the United States, is in general a maritime contract. Now, there was a case about 20 years later talking about jurisdiction and how it attaches in the case of a maritime contract. And it attaches irrespective of whether it is to be performed on land or water. Now, the thing we really have to start understanding here is that it's the Admiralty jurisdiction that they're prosecuting you in on maritime contractual agreements. And in that contract, the social insurance contract, you have then claimed that you've given up your state's common law access, that you are claiming to be a member of the United States government as officer, employee, agent, or custodial, acting in custodial capacity, and that you happen to be living in a territory. Those are all false. Not true. No. They claim they can make a unilateral contract. Yet you had the ability, you should have understood that you should have known you did it voluntarily. You didn't do those things voluntarily. Another thing too, and I don't have the sites right here. It's in my book though, but I'll put it up here and maybe on the next one. It talks about the fact that you cannot, your constitutionally protected rights, your naturally occurring rights, cannot be contracted away, even voluntarily by you. Now the Supreme Court said, yeah, if you make a voluntary consent, you can do that. No, certain things you can't. Now, one of the things we have to start understanding too is the fact that your state government is acting in complicity with the federal government, your federal legislators, to engage in identity theft, forcing you to make a claim of something that's absolutely impossible to do. You cannot be standing in the geographical area known as the state of Utah that's designated by longitude and latitude, standing on the dirt, the bedrock, the granite, the stuff you stand on, and claim that that is a territory of the federal government. And even their claim that you're doing by association, a political subdivision under Article 4, impossible. Unless, of course, the state wants to provide to us the documentation as required under Article 4, Section 4 in the Constitution, that requires them to do what? They have to provide to us the consent, the documentation that was entered into between the government, state of Utah, the Republic of Utah, and the Congress designated in Article 1 of the Constitution for the United States of America in 1787, and Article 4, Section 3, Clause 1, new states may be admitted by the Congress into this union. No new state shall be formed, etc., 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 without the consent of the legislatures of the states concerned as well as of the Congress. That's fine. You want to treat me as being one of your territorial subjects. I need to see the paperwork that says Utah, state of Utah right now, incorporated, is an actual territory. Because if not, you guys are engaging in insurrection. You're engaging in, let's see here. What's the word of it? Treason. We talked to that about right there. That is engaging in open war on the states. Section 3, Article 4, same place. Treason against the United States consists only in levying war against them. Them being who? United States. Now, the United States at this point was what? Those 13 colonies federated together under the Articles of Confederation, known as the United States of America. Now, the fact that my state of Utah here now is at the point where it actually requires me to have a Social Security number, we get a driver's license, when the Social Security Act claims that there should be no use of that number outside of Social Security Administration business. So I also want to see from my state legislature the authorization from the Social Security Administration that the state of Utah has permission to use that Social Security number. Now, they've passed a number of laws at the federal level trying to present that as law, when in fact it's not. It only applies to territories in the states. Now, one interesting thing that we can look at, start understanding what the definition of state really meant back then. If we look at the original Social Security Act, 1935, we go down to, let's see, it's section 11, I believe, yeah, title 11, talks about definitions. Oh, wait, here, I'm on the wrong page, sorry, one second, right here. When used in this act, right here on page, sorry, I hate doing this. Oh, next one down, I'm at 10. Sorry about that. Yeah, Title 11. The term state, except when used in Section 531, includes Alaska, Hawaii, and the District of Columbia. Now, you might think, yeah, Alaska and Hawaii, they're states. But you might remember, the the Social Security Act is in 1935. Now, Alaska and Hawaii were not admitted to the States of the Union until 1959. Meaning what? Now, if we understand a little bit about how they use the word includes, means if they use a word like orange, then anything else in that category has to be a fruit or round and orange. Okay? So it includes Alaska, Hawaii, and the District of Columbia. Alaska and Hawaii are what? They were territories at that time. Territories. The District of Columbia, well, they have exclusive legislative authority there. My state government did not have permission, still doesn't to this day, to turn my territory, the geographical area that I'm standing in, to a territory of the federal government, the United States Congress. That's what they're doing. Your state uniform acts are of the same caliber. They have to be published in the state register to have general applicability, but they don't put most of those there. Your criminal code, for the most part, does not apply to the general population. It applies to who? Hmm? U.S. citizens. The category doesn't even exist because there's no such thing as a U.S. citizen. None. Now they try to make it to a U.S. national, try to close off all these little things. Bottom line, people, is that even if I have a Social Security number that was assigned to me, it's not my number. My private use of that, maybe for banking, some of these other things, because all those industries, and I'll do another video here, but yeah, we can bring federal actions against them for violating the Social Security Act. We'll have to bring it to states under color of law, forcing us to do something that's unlawful. They don't have permission to do that. They can't even use it for identification. Now, they claim that they can, like I said, acting as territorial power. But these are the things we need to start talking about, and these are going to be some of the grounds that we start using to challenge their jurisdiction. The fact that they have engaged in open war, they've engaged in treasonous acts, they have forced us to become criminals. One of the sad things about the Social Security Act is there's no provisions to revoke that number by you. Why? Because it doesn't belong to you. It's a number that they've assigned to you for some administrative purpose of their own. The fact that my state's now requiring me to have that number when the Social Security Administration itself states specifically a Social Security number is not required for citizenship in the geographical United States. In fact, it's not required by any person to have at any time for anything, unless they want to what? Receive the benefits of that. Unfortunately, most of the benefits go along with that are not very beneficial. Forced to give up your rights to access to common law. Now, here in the state of Utah, it's even in their code book says there's no such thing as common law. So that's one of the questions we're going to start asking. We're going to be forwarding some questions to our Supreme Court here, asking whether or not that they are organized under Article 3 of the Constitution for the United States, 1787. And how it is that they have allowed other jurisdictions to operate because they have full jurisdictional authority, original jurisdiction for the entire geographical area known as Utah. Now, the only one answer they can come back with is the fact that they've allowed that under contracting and your ability to contract and the ability of the United States to deal with its people. So that's what we end up having to do. We got to start